All right, stage one, VTAC shuffle. Now, straight up, I'm going to tell you this is two VTACs on the right and left limits of the range. You have two targets downrange, and you have to get a series of hits from two squares and a shelf on each VTAC. Originally, you were going to have to do that while these VTACs were mounted on a cart that you'll see right here, and yeah, they were going to be on that cart, and when you got your engagements off of each VTAC, you grounded your rifle, jumped down, and pushed the cart across the range. And that worked fairly well in testing. This is actually some of our test footage prior to the match, and this, what actually ended up being used in the match, was an alternate stage. The reason we had an alternate was a backup, because the original vehicle we were going to have people push was supposed to be a small light car. Turned out we were given a Lincoln Navigator and realized that the hernias that we'd be generating couldn't be covered by all the match fees. So what we did is on the pre-match for our O's, we said, oh, we'll use this great hay trailer, mount the VTACs on that, and go with there. Well, that's what we did. And then Brass Facts broke everything and realized, well, if he can break it, anybody else can break it. So we just switched over to the alternative method that you're seeing run right here. This turned out to be a stage that was very tough because you had two targets downrange that are 100 meters away from where the filming's going on, so they're difficult to see, but they were also difficult to see for the shooter. One was a full-size popper that was set not to fall. The other one was a full-size silhouette. And depending on when you shot the match was what target was hard to see. Now you notice here when the shooter goes over and makes that engagement on the left side, he's shooting into a shadow. That's because that's where the moon was. As the night would go on, the light would shift, and suddenly the other target would be the harder one to see, and then you could see the other one a little bit easier. So this stage was tough, and the toughness changed depending on when your squad went through. Remember, we considered fair, but decided against it. And you were basically required to get 12 hits from each VTAC, retain your magazines, and then after you got your 36 hits, hopefully under the 240-second par time, you were good to go. This was a tough stage. It really stretched people's limits and their gear, which was what we were aiming to hope and do. On to the second stage, which is called Hot Extraction. And this is where you're riding in the Humvee. You started out here, you had two targets, roughly 50 meters away, that you had to engage, get 6 hits in a 1-2-1-2 pattern. Once you collected those hits, you handed your rifle off to the RO in the back of the Humvee, and you ran down and got your wounded soldier you had to drag back. Or in some cases, you had to drag the wounded soldier away. Either way, you had a run and a drag. It's just in what order you did it. And this dummy, it wasn't your typical drag dummy you find at a match. This one was weight realistic. We made this guy out of 2 bags of Saccrete and an entire fire hose for his limbs. So he was nice and heavy, flexible, but not overly so. So dragging him around was really a challenge. As you see here, our guy is struggling and even takes a small fall coming up. So there you have it. I mean, this guy was tough, and it was a long way to drag him, further than you go than most matches, but we did our best to turn it up to 11 for this match, and this was one of the ways that we did it. So once you got the guy to the Humvee, you decided he was dead and you were leaving him behind anyways. You get your rifle back, and then you start engaging the targets that you engaged earlier on the move. And each one you hit gets you a 5-second bonus. There has been some complaint that the amount of bonus was out of whack in comparison to the length of penalty, and we're going to take that under advisement and consider that when we design next year's match. So don't worry, we are taking a good listen to what you guys are telling us. So when you reach the turn up here, you handed your rifle off to the RO, and you'll see right here as we pan across the parking area, there's other shooters there, and that's exactly why the rifle was handed off to the RO. It was turned skyward and put in a place where it couldn't accidentally sweep anybody. Then you engaged here the poppers on the side bays. These are pistol-sized poppers, and you were roughly about 25 meters from them, hitting them on the move from a nice bouncy Humvee, for a total of 6. And once you collected all these, all you had to do was disembark the vehicle here shortly by handing the rifle back to the RO. And then while the Humvee made its turn into the final bay to position you to disembark the vehicle, you ran over to that VTAC you saw there, and you got a series of hits on the target downrange from different ports. So there were 2 square ports you had to get hits from, and then you could pick any shelf that you wanted to get a hit from on the outside.
That's it. Load show clear.
All right, we go on to Stage 3, the Hesco House of Death. Now this one, you started out and run to your fallen comrade, and you got to put a tourniquet on him and stop his bleeding before he bleeds out. And then, because your best buddy's been shot up, you grab his rifle, because yours has become ineffective for some reason, and grab the ammo off his load-bearing vest, and you tear into that house, and you kill all those bad guys who shot your buddy up. Now, in this stage, you used a stage rifle provided by the One Shepherd Leadership Institute, and you had 28 rounds of frangible ammunition with your iron-sighted A2 carbine, and you went through and engaged all the targets. First 2 were swinging flashers, as you see here, which a bit of a challenge to get engaged. Nice small targets.
Where the fuck?
But once you neutralized them, you moved on, and then you went through the house, and then you broke right here, and surprise, bad guy. And you continued to clear the rooms here, more bad guys. And you take this bad guy out too, but the whole house ain't clear, so out you go and find more bad guys. So now you go into the left side of the house, and what do you know? Bad guys. And get this last guy in the room, but there's still more bad guys around because you've been killing them all, and one of them's trying to escape. And this one, he's got body armor. Now we move on to the trenches of Ukraine. Probably one of the more popular stages at the match. So the video you're seeing here was taken during the RO match right before the main match. And this is the point of the view of the competitor. Each firing port you went to, there was a target that was visible for that firing port. And you had to get 3 hits on it. And if you missed, well, that was a 60-second penalty. You also had to maneuver down the trench. And this was a hand-dug trench. The basis of it was excavated out, and by the basis I mean 1 scoop out of a loader, and then all the rest, the widening, the deepening, the cutting of these firing ports, the filling of the sandbags, all done by hand by volunteers from One Shepherd Leadership Institute. So big shout out to them there. A lot of hard work went into this. Each unique engagement from a port was unique. Like for this one here, there's a big tree in front of the port, so your targets are on the left and right lateral limits. And once you got 3 hits, you moved on to your next target. And the point of view here is you can see what a compressed opening is, like you'd have in real life. Down here at the end of the trench, you make your engagement for this part of the run on a very hard to see target because of the way shadows, and it was back against a tree, everything blended in. This part of the trench eventually will be covered and become a regulation machine gun pit. And once you made your engagements, you fought your way back down the trench making all the engagements again. By the time you've gone from the start point to the end and back to the start point with all the engagements, you've made 39 hits. So you don't get through this one without a mag change unless you brought a D60 drum and didn't miss. But very realistic thing. As I said, a lot of people found this to be their favorite stage, or definitely in their top stages for the match. Very challenging. And don't worry, next year we'll be doing other things in the trench, so be prepared for more trench warfare. Here you get the point of view down the trench, just showing you how tight and compact it is. And definitely had to be sure of footing. It was very easy to trip up here and go head over tea kettle. Also, muzzle awareness was a thing, and the beautiful thing about the match is nobody was DQ'd. 114 competitors, none were DQ'd. So this speaks well of not only the competitors, but the ROs in keeping control of everything, keeping everything safe. And here you are, your final engagement, right back where you started. All right, moving on to the Meth Lab in the woods. I mean, why not? It's West Virginia. Boom goes the stun grenade. And get the point of view of it there. And in you go and start eliminating the targets. You had 8 targets in this shoot house you had to eliminate. And you had this room here that confused the hell out of people. Because we had 1 target mounted down low. Then you came out and you picked up your scanning. And oh my gosh, oh, there's the final 2. And then you had to chase the bastards that got out the back. And you had 3 firing points marked by chem lights that you had to hit the target down lane that we put a flasher on. And I chose this video from one of our ROs during the RO match because he's the only one where the flasher didn't mess with their head. Most people, the flasher went off, they're like, oh, I can't see it anymore because it was blotted out. But he figured it out and got the hits in rapid succession. Had a very good time on the stage, as you can see. All right, now we go on to stage 6, the field of destroyed dreams. And this field starts with a bold choice. Look at this operator here. ANPVS 5 goggles. They're older than he is. Talk about a bold choice to make a tough stage with. And this is where dreams will be destroyed. What did you have to do? Well, you started out at this VTAC barricade here, and you had to get 6 hits. 2 each from the squares, and then 2 from one of the shelves. So a total of 6 hit before you moved on. And there he is, getting it done using his PVS 5s. Very amazing. Once you got your hits off this barricade, you then went over past some obstacles and then over a shooting bench. So you bypass those obstacles, over the shooting bench after grounding your rifle on it. Retrieve your rifle when you get to the other side, and then there were these pyramids that had 6 holes in them that you had to engage from. These holes were picked specifically for their height. If you were aiming passive, you had to be in the most awkward position to be able to make your hits, and if you were active, even still you had to be in an awkward position. As you can see here, not the most comfortable one to be in, and you couldn't get big offsets like you could with, like, say, a regular VTAC where you put the gun through one hole and look through another. So this was designed to be a stage where accuracy would be your friend. The design of the stage doesn't really allow you to build any momentum. So if you're one of the super physically fit guys but an average shooter, you have no advantage here. However, if you're average physical fitness but a pretty accurate shooter, this is your stage where you can pull ahead. This one was a bit of a slog, 240 seconds with 20-something required hits. I forget off the top of my head, to be honest. But yeah, you had to just get your hits and work back and forth. And you started out at that VTAC, went through the pyramids, and went back to the VTAC. And just getting your hits along the way. This is where just good, solid marksmanship really paid off. Now, you can see here during the RO match, the lighting conditions are perfect. Got a full moon up there. Got no clouds in the sky. The starlight's really coming through. The area is really lit up well. And if you were shooting passive, this was your night. First night of the main match, we had overcast and even rain at one point, and for the guys in passive, this stage must have been especially difficult. And getting good feedback off the targets there, so there's no doubt about when the hits are being made. Originally, this was a wall you had to vault, but for safety reasons and actually somewhat difficult reasons too, we switched to a table, which made it just as cumbersome to climb over, but with a little less risk of injury. Now, to be fair, in this video, you watch the guy making engagements in the first half with PVS 5s. All the point of view here with the GRAC, the person is using PVS 14s.
You got a lot of time. Down there. One. Give me two. Hit. Unload. Shoot.
Now we are at stage 7, the Circle of Doom. Here you're going to see the RO shoot it on the first stage of the RO match, and you're going to see it shot the way it was intended to be.
Wow, that is... Target package 3. Kettlebell, vertical barricade, engage. The top and bottom, the outside spinners. Yeah. And popper and high value.
Alright, so that's what was supposed to happen. We were supposed to read those. What actually happened is we found out during the RO match that the first squad to go through could read, as you've seen them do right here. And the second squad was able to pull it off. By the time the third squad came through, the constant flipping over of the mines started to abrade the surface of the sheet protectors used to protect the words and paper against the moisture. And it got abraded and got opaque and became unreadable. Something that in all our testing never came up because, well, most of us were testing it was a squad at one time. So, hey, it worked every time. It's one of those things you don't know until you test under a high load of competitors. So we were forced to adapt and overcome and think on our feet. And what we did is we changed it from a reading comprehension drill to a listening comprehension drill. And during the main match, what happened is there were pieces of glow tape in the bottom of the mines, either 1, 2, or 3 strips, which told you the target package number. And then the RO would call it out to you, and you had to remember what he said and made the engagement. Now, once you completed your first engagement, you had to come back and flip over another mine for another target package.
Target package 1. 2 mines. VTAC. Engage. God, that is... Bottom plates.
Okay, once you read off your second target package, you started following instructions by what you had to carry down to what obstacle and engaged in accordance with the instructions. The stage was low round count, but pretty high stress because you had to pay attention. If you didn't pay attention, you didn't get to shoot in the correct sequence, and, well, your penalty was not shooting in the right sequence, and you had to do it till you got it right. You were entitled to 1 freebie of a reminder of your instructions. After that, anytime you asked, well, that cost you a penalty in addition to all the time you were wasting. So, like all things in life, this stage really needed you to pay attention.
It's these.
We realized it wasn't the most popular stage in the match, and we're going to take some steps to make this a whole lot better when you see the new incantation next year.
All right, go ahead.
All right, stage 8, the Oh No, Not Again course. Yes, how often do you get an obstacle course on a firing range that allows you to shoot from the obstacle course onto targets on range?
Stand by.
Practically never. This is the only place I've ever encountered it, and we had to take advantage of it. So, what did you do here? Well, is you went in and around over obstacles, you made an engagement. Now, the target was just one target in the middle of the bay. Nice and easy to see here because this is footage from the RO match where we had literally the most perfect NVG conditions going. You had just one target you were engaging the whole time, a 66% silhouette. So the target was a tad over 100 meters away, probably feeling more like 125 due to the reduced size of the target. And as you fought your way through, not only did you have several hits you had to make, several times you had to make hits while doing it with high value, which means you would take your get your 2 hits you're required to, then remove the magazine and take a single shot to clear the weapon. And if you didn't get that single shot, 60-second penalty. But the reason we did this was it turns your weapon then into a stick, because we know the last round that was in the weapon was discharged downrange. So now you have a safe stick that you can negotiate the obstacles with and not be so concerned about the 180.
High value.
This was a tough stage. One of the things that made this stage particularly tough was if your hits weren't coming easy or you took a malfunction, your chances of getting through it without pouring out were pretty low. This tunnel right here was a real killer because the inside of it is slick as heck. So you go in it, you feel your feet scrambling like you're in a cartoon, going quickly but going nowhere at the same time. And this one target being in the middle of the bay down below, as you change shooting positions, the aspect of it constantly changed. So while there was literally just one target you were constantly engaging, it seemed like a whole bunch of different ones. It was a great economy of material. This shooter here was pretty lucky. He's an RO on one of the first squads to go through on the RO match night, and his rifle's given him a little bit of trouble, but he's able to work it well enough to get those malfunctions cleared, and he's going to get spoiler alert to the end without pouring out.
Not touching? Oh.
And right there you can see he's having some trouble, but he fights through it, gets it done, gets the weapon up, and starts getting his hits.
Well. Two from here?
Just other side of the wall.
Also, one of the things that made this course very challenging was the simple fact that right about the time this shooter's shooting, it's about 25 degrees. So nice and bitterly cold. The next night, during the first night of the match, temperatures would be a bit warmer, but it'd be a whole lot wetter. And done.
Whew.
In addition to the super awesome companies you see listed here, we have to give a big shout out to Brownells and Virginia Citizens Armories for their contributions to the match as well. And a big shout out to One Shepherd Leadership Institute and the Fairfax Rod and Gun Club for all their RO and target support in this match.